Welcome to the Conscious Publicist Podcast, a space where thoughts become ideas to advocate for a more conscious human experience in the media. Our thoughts and ideas inspire action, and the most notable leaders and organizations have transformed thoughts and ideas into global initiatives that have impacted the lives of millions. My name is Ashley Graham, and as a woman-owned business founder and publicist, I guide leaders, visionaries, and creators in discovering their conscious media voice and methodologies that inspire connection, community, and impact through aligned media channels. In this podcast, we'll dive into public relations, thought leadership, business, and entrepreneurship, all through the lens of being a conscious human being. I'll take you behind the scenes into the habits, thoughts, and modalities that have helped leaders shift past paradigms of limiting beliefs, comparison, and self-doubt to show up for themselves to become the subject matter experts they were called to be. Subscribe to the show on Apple or Spotify and join us on this journey of awakening the conscious, enlightened leader within you. Here we are at the end of January, which I believe is a great time to reflect on how you started the year. Now, I'm not one for working within the parameters of a calendar year. I more so feel into the year and feel into where my attention is best needed and use that as my guide for the goals, the aspirations, and the manifestations or experiences that I want in my life moving forward. I like to take the start of the year as a time to look at things that need to be cleared or need to be organized, to create an energetic space to welcome in the things that are meant to come into my life in the new year. And with that said, I have been head down into doing an immense amount of digital clearing and also bringing that energy into clearing out physical things in my home or physical things in my life that really do not serve a purpose. This is also a little hint that I will be talking more about daily routines, practices, and lifestyle things in the upcoming launch of our YouTube channel. But I wanted to take a moment to talk about something that I had observed while I was going through the physical books that I have that have just been accumulating dust in the closet. I came across this journal that I can't tell you the last time that I had even physically touched this notebook. And within the first few pages of this journal is my last practice or my last entries of doing the 55x5 manifestation technique. If you Google this manifestation technique, I'm sure you'll find hundreds upon hundreds of articles written about this because it's been around for quite some time, but it is called the 55x5 manifestation technique. And what this practice is you write down a very specific manifestation, almost writing it in the sense of past, present, future. So you'll write down this sentence of a manifestation that you desire. Now, there's different ways that you can create your manifestation itself, or you can just simply write something that feels good in that moment and just comes naturally. There is no right or wrong technique into writing out this specific manifestation. Your higher self knows exactly what it is that you desire. So trust that voice, trust that self to guide you. But you essentially take that manifestation and you write it out 55 times for 5 days in a row. Now, in full transparency, I have done this manifestation technique a couple of times, and there has only been one practice that I have completed. If you decide to start this practice, you'll notice that as you begin to write your manifestation over and over and over again, it can become quite tiring. But the most impactful thing about this technique, even though it's something so simple and does not take a lot of physical, emotional, or mental energy to accomplish it or complete it, the practice is creating this new connection to your manifestation and creating this repetitive attention, repetitive awareness around it, and almost creating this mental habit that you are seeing it, thinking about it, writing it, speaking it over and over and over again until it creates this new emotional connection to your manifestation in a very mental, emotional, and physical, but also spiritual way. This reminds me of something that I read from James Clear's Atomic Habits, is that human beings are creatures of habit, creatures of routine. And when it comes to our thoughts and our beliefs, is if we do not challenge this old paradigm of thinking or believing, we are set in that same parameter of thought and belief in every single moment moving forward if we do not create a space to disconnect from an old ideal way of thought or belief. And I sense that the reason why there is so much affirmation around the power of this technique is you are creating a new way of thought around this very particular belief that you can manifest this very particular manifestation that you are wanting to call and attract into your life. You're creating a new emotional, mental, spiritual, and physical space to call in that manifestation. And the repetition, writing it out 50 times or 55 times over again for 5 days straight, is you're creating a new habit of thought around the real reality that that manifestation is yours. So this leads me into a notebook that I came across today while going through my books. And it is a notebook that I had wrote from January 25th through January 29th, my last 55 by 5 manifestation technique. And so on January 25th of 2021, I had wrote out the manifestation. The universe is bringing my soul partner to me. I wrote that 55 times every day for 5 days straight from, again, January 25th, 2021 to January 29th, 2021. To further paint the picture, my last entry as a whole in that journal was August 22nd of 21, meaning that after a few months of writing in this journal, starting off the journal with my last 55 by 5 manifestation technique, wanting or calling in the universe to bring my soul partner, this has been shoved away in a rolling suitcase with a bunch of books every single moment since that last page was written in. Now I'm going to share a personal story. And this was not planned for today by any means, but Allie and I, my fiance, my soon-to-be husband, had just celebrated our 2-year anniversary between the dates of January 25th to January 29th. The parallels of these two moments in time is Allie and I had met on a dating app and we had matched and talked for the first time through the app January 25th because I had pinpointed that moment in time with another event that I had that day. So I knew that that was the first conversation that we had taken outside of just text exchange on the app. But then the first date that we had set to meet up in person was to meet for coffee in Laguna Beach on January 29th. And the reason why I know that is because I am a calendar girl. I put everything in my calendar to look at my plans, look at my week, and to assess what time I have for projects, creative things, moments that I can spend out with friends, and all the things that I would need to calendar to manage my time. Within the last week or two, I had made an agreement or made a plan for Allie and I that we would celebrate our anniversary moving forward between January 25th and January 29th, because we really do look at our anniversary period in time almost as this window of time. And the reoccurring joke between us is we refuse just to pick a date, because if we were just to choose one date, we would miss out on these other moments of connection that was part of our introduction to one another, as part of our journey leading into the first time meeting, and just this immense amount of knowing that, wow, we were going to be very significant people in each other's lives, that our paths were going to now be integrated every moment moving forward. It didn't feel right or fair just to pick one date. I do feel that it has to be this period of time, because there were these different periods and moments of engagement and connection that led to the start of our journey together. So to bridge the connection to the incredible epiphany that I had just moments ago finding this notebook is 2 weeks ago, I had made reservations for us. Actually, I made reservations months ago, but I made the reservation for the 25th, a Thursday. And it just realistically made more sense to have our anniversary date that night. And the plan was to hopefully take Friday off and start our long extended weekend, and then do something special on Monday to aid into the window of time, what I was feeling was going to be our new marker for our anniversary. So this reservation for the 25th was scheduled months ago. And it wasn't until the night of our anniversary, or maybe a couple of days before the anniversary dinner on the 25th, that I had made a joke to Allie, and I had even made a joke to my now sister-in-law and brother-in-law, that I made the decision that we now have a anniversary weekend between the 25th and the 29th. So again, past tense, I had this conversation days ago, and I just came across the notebook today, January 31st of 2024. Now the funny, and again, it's not funny, just the parallels and the most magical thing about this is, again, Allie and I had met January 25th, or taken our conversation further from the app as far as having an actual voice-to-voice conversation on the 25th of 2022. This is an exact year later on the same date as I had started the first page of the 55 by 5 manifestation technique. And maybe we'll talk about our spiritual experience of two people coming together from a digital platform, but knowing that when we met one another, it had felt like we had known each other for decades upon decades upon decades of time. It felt like there was no period of having to assess, who are you? What do you do? Are we compatible? Are we this? Are we that? There was none of that. It was this divine sense of knowing that completely took me by surprise. It took him by surprise. And I am a very spiritually connected person. I have had incredible experiences like that, but there was nothing as profound as this experience with my now fiancé, soon to be husband. So to find this journal today, just days after this period of time of this declaration, plan of how we're going to celebrate our relationship, how we're going to celebrate our anniversary for the years to come. Finding this is so eye-opening to the power of manifestation techniques like this. But again, taking the spirituality stuff out of it, the things that can sound a little out there when you hear it, putting that all aside, if you think about the habit setting part of this, and that's why I led into the connection to what I had read with Atomic Habits, is at the end of the day, yes, we are energetic beings. We are these spiritual beings in physical form. That truly is a belief of mine. But when you put that aside, you look at the human brain and you think about how we apply ourselves, how we move day to day, how we think, feel, sense, touch, all of these other sensations, all of these thoughts, beliefs, habits, routines, is we live through just that, through constant everyday thoughts, beliefs, feelings, senses, conversations, decisions. And if you are able to bridge a connection between this spiritual connection and really creating a habit or belief around that spiritual connection or that manifestation being accessible to you, this is how you have an experience like I am sharing in this very personal story. This is definitely one of my favorite modalities. Now, even though it is a very specific modality around manifestation, again, it's a very particular practice with very set guidelines and very easy guidelines. I feel that there's other modalities that also speak the same language and speak the same energy. And at the end of the day, it all is to serve a purpose of calling in our wants, our desires, and the experiences that we are not currently living, but we know is something that is meant for us through the design of our lives. As I mentioned in the trailer, is I want to talk about more modalities like this because in my perspective, outside of strategies and processes and things that are so heavy sometimes, especially in the world of business or being a founder or even being a thought leader and all of the stages that someone has to go through in order to go from this version of themselves to then now calling in this version and this visibility around their own calling and their own expertise. And all the processes and strategies and routines and all the things that is so noisy sometimes that we hear about every day. The modalities that I want to talk about are the feel-good modalities, the things that bring some lightness to everything else that we see constantly fed to us and is calling for our attention. These types of modalities, this way of being, this type of practice is something that feels good. And especially when you trust and allow that whatever it is that you're wanting to call in to come in when it's meant to, that sometimes you don't need to act on it. You don't need to force it. You don't need to control it. When you have moments like this, like I did today, of looking back at a journal from 2-3 years ago and realizing that, wow, that came into my life in a way that I could have never even controlled or guided on my own. It was something that I needed to allow myself just to feel and to trust that it was going to happen. And that's how I wrote out my manifestation, with every sentence of saying, the universe is bringing my soul partner to me, or however I wrote it, as I really truly believed it in every single moment that I wrote those words in that book. 55 times a day for 5 days. I believed it. And I knew that it was going to come into my life in a way that would have not been something by my own design. It was going to be from an energy and orchestration of a design from something far greater than me, and in a way that was curated and crafted in a way that I would not even have had the power to create myself. Using my meeting with my fiance as the example, there's still so much more to our journey of finding one another that would put that last statement into deeper perspective. But I don't want to get too focused on that personal story. I want to use this as a great teaser into some of the content that I'll be sharing over on the YouTube channel, which is definitely more of a looking glass into everyday habits, everyday routines, everyday practices as to how I'm able to bring such clarity into modalities, leadership practices, relationship building practices, communication practices. It's because I am a walking model for that every day. And thinking about tools like manifestation is it's so much deeper than just writing things on paper. At the end of the day, again, leading into the belief in creating a new habit of thought, is manifestation is a way to reframe your thoughts and your perspectives. And when you change that habit of thought and when you change that perspective, you're able to make every decision, every thought, every choice, every action from a place of intention around that manifestation than what you might have been able to have prior. When we have this new perspective of thought, when we have this new belief, when it clicks, when it literally becomes a part of your now orchestrated DNA moving forward, is you really do apply yourself from that place of intention where you don't always have to have triggered thoughts around it. It's not something that you need to have this heightened sense of awareness around. It literally just is. And that's something that I would love to talk about even further as we continue down the path of talking about manifestation and modalities like this that aren't something tangible. It's not always something that you can see in physical form until after you have a series of experiences that really create the anchor points and times where you're able to see how it really manifested in your life. I hope that this inspires and piques your curiosity for more insights around my favorite modalities to come. And in the meantime, feel free to head over to The Conscious Publicist on YouTube, hit subscribe for some amazing content coming your way soon.